here. Just follow.
Oh. Betsy! How can you leave us? How can you leave us again and again like this?
After working for me all these years, it should be pretty clear to you that I'm not someone you'd want to be an enemy.
Well, I wanted you to know that I've been in love with Jaime.
Doctor, what is it?
I'm sorry, Madam, but your baby's dead.
You are a murderer. You killed my baby. Get out of here now. I want you out. I hate seeing you happy. I hope one day you suffer pain far worse than what I'm suffering right now.
Calm down, beautiful. Hujapoteza uzuri wako wala heshima yako.
Mbona hauko mwazi na mimi? Amesema nini?
Hajasema chochote, ni yale maneno mimi niliyomtupia. Ndio nina hakika Keta atafikiria mambo yake kichwani na atafanya kitu ambacho sio kizuri.
Wewe na bad story kwisha.
Wewe utasikiaje mtu aje nyumbani kwako tuna kumchukua Hana?
Don't you even think about that.
As campaign intensifies for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Kuria and Serfine Achieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions.
Good morning, and thank you for creating time for us on a News Check, a program that seeks to explore issues shaping the news in the country. And today being the 28th day of the 6th month, the year 2022, a lot is indeed happening. Politically speaking, on the campaign trail, we'll be looking at some of the issues that have been shaping the political terrain. Also, we'll be talking about the role of the media, not just in election, but also generally in leadership and governance. Of course, a bit later on in the course of this particular broadcast. But right now, I just want us to cross over very quickly to one of the events that we are also tracking for you. This particular morning currently happening at the Villa Rosa Kempinski in Nairobi. There is an investors breakfast meeting, the Konza investors breakfast meeting currently underway. Let's just cross over there and listen into what some of the stakeholders are currently saying.
About transformations. An African savanna to a silicon savannah, a green field to a thriving city, a city where people live, play, and work, and convivial place, a place where there is sanity. When you talk about such values, one must understand the principle of duality. What is duality? When you are a dual citizen, you belong to two worlds, two countries, so to speak. But duality is understood this way, very simply. You know day because you know night. You know light because you know darkness. You know unsafe because you know safe. You know primitive because you know developed and well set. That's the principle of duality. You know life because you understand death. Those are the opposites of living. At Konza, we are providing you with a value proposition where if you know unsafe or cities that are unsafe places that are unsafe, you're getting into places that are very, very safe. Places where, and this is sometimes a description of a third world country, described by some people as a country where power goes off. At Konza, such will not be, because we are arguing the case, we are planning it well. We have put systems in place that will ensure that you do not only get continuous energy, but you get it clean. We're talking about connectivities. We are talking about smart infrastructure. Smart infrastructure. A situation where you will not find somebody cutting the road so that they get the pipes across the street. All those are under there. And for me, it has been such a learning experience, seeing things being done, and being done in such a way that we'll only be able to say, yes, it is good. Such statements were only being made by God himself when he created the world. As he went through the 6-day creation time, every time you look and say, it is good. And it is good. Everything that you've seen and what has been shown out to you is actually good. So, ladies and gentlemen, we invite you to come along with us. This is an invitation to treat. We know you don't need any more preaching. You are already converted. But please, can you go out there and tell people that so much is happening at Konza. Look at this, for instance. We are thinking of very many things. Every day, every moment, I have time with the CEO and other persons. We always discuss, what do you think we should do next? Yesterday we had a session with some investors, the CEO, and I said, probably we need time to ask ourselves questions and ask, what do we need to do next? Because the possibilities are there, and the possibilities are so many. We're thinking about a smart stadia. Smart stadias are places of work, not just playing, not playing soccer and things like that. If you go to the US and visit, say, the Maverick Stadia, you will find that there are hotels, there are conference facilities, there are learning places, and the facility is used continuously. We're thinking about a botanical garden where you plant and come up possibly with alternative medicine. These are investment opportunities. We're thinking about motorsport. We dream a lot. We're thinking about engaging the people of Formula One. They live out here in Malindi. Talk to them. There's only one circuit in Africa, Shalami, out in Johannesburg. And these are game changers. We are thinking about very many projects out there. And so there are investment opportunities. We're living, therefore, in a boundless society, country, where we can invite others to work with us. Share this dream with the others. I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank the management. Management always prepares the talking notes for me. And I received them at 11:30 last night. That's when I saw them. By that time, I'd written my quick notes in point form. But they will agree with me that I've included everything that they put my talking nose. Thank you very much and good morning. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to invite a special person, our PS. Our PS has been there for us. And I've said this, and I'll repeat it, because it doesn't harm repeating. The Ministry of ICT, CS Mucheru, the PS out here, our government, the president, the leadership, they've been great to us. Say that we are like spoiled. When we ask, we are given. But you know, I think it's because we know how to ask. You see, the style matters. So we ask, and when appears, if you can just be upstanding and come this way, we want to thank you. And through you, our CS and the government. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And just to pick in terms of what you're saying is that at least apart from knowing how to ask, we support because upon asking, you're also able to deliver. So we are always happy to continue supporting. So thank you very much, Chairman and the entire team. We are committed to continuously support you. Let me also start by appreciating Chairman, our CEO, all Kotda staff present here, investors present, distinguished invited guests. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning again. Let me start by saying on behalf of the Ministry of ICT, together with the Cabinet Secretary, Joe Musheru, we are really glad that you joined us, because it's not every day that we have investors coming together under one roof to exchange ideas, compare notes, and also discuss investment opportunities. And I was listening to the various updates that we got based on the updates of what has happened, based on the intentions that various investors have in mind. I really see a very great future in Konza, and thank you all, because clearly there is commitment. The mission of Kotda is to ensure that the Technopolis grows into a sustainable world-class technology hub and major economic driver for the country, with a mix of business, workers, residents, and urban amenities. This is in much realization of the modern-day development that cannot be done well without good ICT and innovation environment. We have cultivated an innovation environment, and clearly you can see from the innovation challenges that we've had, out of the 300, you can see some of the 3 innovations that were presented here today, a very clear indication of really our great interest. Let me also say that we are lucky as Konza that we intend to host the International Association of Science Park Conference, the year 2024. And that reminds me of when we ask, because I remember when the CEO asked me to actually bring this forward to government, I think it took the shortest time possible to actually have this pass through cabinet. Already now we have cabinet approval. So basically we are just waiting for that decision of the ISP. And it's very interesting that actually a city called Konza is in contest with a city called, is it Quebec or Quebec? Okay, that one. In Canada. So really, we are playing in a different league. We are not playing on the local leagues. We are actually playing in the international league, and actually we look forward to making sure that what we can do as government will do. We have already engaged the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to begin campaigning for us. especially now through our foreign embassies, that we get lucky to host this particular event. It's going to be a big one because bearing in mind when you have all these international visitors here, it becomes an eye-opener, both for investment and even, I hope, those people who are putting up buildings by 2024, when our visitors will be coming, then they don't have to come back to Nairobi. They will actually be having residential places to stay in at Konza. So basically, these are some of the efforts we are making to make sure that we are now putting our facilities into full use. We pray for the best, and we hope we get the opportunity to host the International Association of Science Park in the year 2024. Let me also say that as government, we recognize.
All right, so that is an event that is currently underway at the Villa Rosa Kempinski Hotel right here in Nairobi. Currently speaking there, we've seen the Jerome Achieng, the ICT Principal Secretary. Of course, it's a breakfast that has brought together the Konza investors just to discuss the way forward. And of course, just to pick up a few highlights of what is being discussed there. They're providing a value proposition where they're able to create a safe environment. And of course, there is also discussions on the unpredictable failures like power and clean energy, among other issues on the table for the investors to discuss to make this a success. Of course, it's an event we're following up for you, and we will be giving you more details about this as we continue with the day's broadcast. But this morning on News Check, we are talking about so many issues also developing in the country, including the race to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta, and also, the campaigns for the 2022 general election. And of course, our first topic of the morning is going to be state of the race as we talk about some of these issues. And later on, like I told you, we'll be talking about the role of the media, especially at such a time when we are headed to a general election. But on the first hour, I'll be having a conversation with Gloria Oruoba. She is a youth policy analyst. Thank you so much, Gloria, for creating time for us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and also expecting Sefu Sani. She's an aspirant, an MCA aspirant from Kenyatta Golf Course Award right here in Nairobi. She'll be joining us in due course. But first, I want us to cross over to Kisumu County. Still on the same discussion, on standby, we have my colleague Wycliffe Okech, just about to have a conversation with the Senator for Kisumu County, Outa Frederick Otieno. Let's cross over there and listen into what are some of his insights on the state of the race this particular morning. It's over to you, Wycliffe.
Well, thank you so much, Serfine, Achieng, back in Nairobi. We are, of course, coming to you live from Kisumu City this morning as we discuss the state of the nation with regards to the forthcoming polls. You know that the electoral body, the IEBC, had already published, or rather gazetted, the final report on the total number of registered voters in the country. And now the political parties, or rather the two major political parties in the country that is jostling for the race of the presidential seat, that is the Kenya Kwanza, talk of the Kenya Kwanza, led by its presidential candidate and the Deputy President William Ruto, and again the Azimio faction being led by Raila Odinga being the presidential candidate. Now they're just putting their best foot forward as they strive to actually cover as much ground as possible and convince as many voters as possible. But then, looking at the state of preparedness of the IEBC, do the electorate really have the confidence in the electoral body? And again, looking at the politics of the day, we know that the Azimio are planning the zoning concept. I don't know if will this really come to fruition. And this morning, Serfine, you will allow me to engage the Senator of Kisumu County, that is Fred Outa, to help us understand if all these developments can be viable. Mr. Fred.
Yes.
Thank you, and welcome to KBC on our News Check live show. This morning we are talking about the state of the nation, regarding the state of preparedness with regards to the forthcoming polls. In your position as the senator and a political player, do you think the IEBC is prepared enough, and do the electorate have confidence in the electoral body? Let's begin there.
First of all, let me take this opportunity to thank the people of Kisumu. And I, as the Senator of Kisumu, first of all, I'm really contented with the preparedness the IEBC, and I want to give the chair of the IEBC, Chebukula Wakati, a kudos for the first time in the history here in Kenya. It's the first time that Kenya will experience that the fourth estate, that is the media houses, will have their own tallying center and be able to contrast or compare with the IBC and other tallying centers. And also he has given the mandate of even the candidate themselves to be able to organize their own tallying center. And for me, this creates transparency during the forthcoming general elections. And I want to thank them for this kind of gesture, so that we do not plunge this country into chaos like what we had witnessed previously. And so I, as the senator here, I'm much more happy, and I think the IBC is ready for this job, and we must just be able to go out and rally our voters to be able to vote for our candidates.
Exactly. And talking about the political players going out and to convince as many voters as possible as they try to rally the voters behind their their own factions. Do you think the concept that is being introduced by the Azimio faction of zoning, or rather putting in place the necessary steps to ensure that they emerge victorious, especially in their strongholds, so that they don't get outwitted by their political rivals?
I first of all want to declare my interest that I'm a Azimio member, by the virtue that I'm an ODM life member number 19. And I want to categorically state that when Azimio was formed, we had in mind that different political parties will come together with one goal: to mobilize the votes for our presidential candidate, and that is none other than Raila Amolo Odinga. So any other things beyond that, I have no clue. But I want to state categorically that even now there are some quarters that are agitating for zoning. It is just too late. The time was given before, where the Azimio as a family were conducting the survey, and they were also looking other ways to see who is the favorite candidate or a strong candidate in any given area, especially from the MCAs through the MP, women rep, up to the governor. That was already been given, and up to date, we only have 6 more days so that the IBC will close that chapter. So many people have been given that opportunity, and the thought that people are trying to bring in a Azimio that now we can start doing zoning, it is just too late. It is ill informed, so that people with that different ideologies, from my view, they are more agitating that we fail to gather more votes for our presidential candidate.
What would you suggest as maybe the viable option apart from zoning, so that the Azimio faction, so to speak, get as many seats as possible?
You know, for example, when we talk of Azimio as a party, it's a coalition of many parties. So here in Nyanza, you know, when we talk of Azimio, other people who are given direct tickets by ODM, which is also a member of Azimio, they are always trying to intimidate other political parties by saying that when we talk of Azimio, we are referring to ODM, which they are missing the target. What I'm saying here in Kisumu County, or let me speak on behalf of the people from Nyanza, that is not going to be able to give us or mobilize enough vote to our presidential candidate Raila Amolo Odinga, because the mistake was already done by the ODM party by giving direct tickets to what we call weak candidates. Those are just weak candidates. And the electorates now, they are very wise. So people who have been given those direct candidates, now they have been rejected by the electorate, especially in Nyanza. That's why you see the call for 6 Ps is not going well with the people here.
Yeah. Before we go to the 6 Ps, as actually being proposed by the ODM party. Let's just talk about the zoning concept. What would you suggest as the viable option if Azimio really wants to gather as many seats as possible?
The time was given and the time is out. The train has all left the station. So now, if you are trying to do zoning with six days to go, so that the IBC will close their books for the candidates, that to me means that you are trying to create chaos within the Azimio, because no any politician would be able to will be willing at this time to talk about zoning, because they have spent their money, their time has gone, they are prepared, the electorate already also have already warmed up to them. So like we speak now, in those areas of Azimio, those who are having more than 2 candidates in Azimio, they have already rift already. Just like, for example, here in Kisumu, we have Jack Ranguma in MDG and Anyang' Nyong'o on ODM as the candidate for gubernatorial of Kisumu County. And as I speak today, there will be a big landslide where Jack Ranguma will give Nyong'o. Because
Okay.
that's what is here.
That is according
So for
to
me,
your
if
gauge
you're
of
talking about the zoning, the person, when you talk about zoning, we look at different parties within the Azimio. So if we're going for popularity, people with the strong muscles, people who can gather vote for the presidential candidate, it will be my request that Anyang should step down, if that's the reason.
Well,
he doesn't have people.
Okay, that is according to your assessment on the ground, exactly.
Yeah.
And now talking about the 6-piece voting pattern being proposed by the ODM party, we know that this is Kisumu, and talking about the Luo Nyanza, basically, it's the ODM party that is quite dominant, yes. And we're looking at the voting pattern, the 6-piece. Do you think this is viable, and will the electorate maybe heed to that call?
It has already been rejected all over Nyanza region, and that is 4 counties. It has already been rejected. We should not push it. Any moment we try to open that Pandora box, what we are saying is that we are denying Raila Amolo Odinga more votes that he needed to win this presidential forthcoming general election. Because at any moment that you try to do that, there will be voter apathy. People have already decided who they want to vote. For today, if you come and dictate it to an individual that you step down for so-and-so, and unpopular, like in my area here where people got direct ticket of ODM, they are having hard time even to go out and look votes for Raila. Those tickets, since they got them, they have already put them under a mattress. They are not campaigning anywhere because people have rejected the call of 6-piece, whereby the party would be able to impose a weaker candidate or an individual who is a non-deliver of services. What people need now, a strong candidate, an individual who can bring services to the people. So that to bring to attention of people who are agitating for 6-piece in this region, let bygone be bygones. People have already rejected 6-piece, and they will vote an individual or parties under the Azimio a strong candidate who can give them the services.
All right. Now, just taking you back briefly about the status of preparedness of the IDPC party. It is just over a month before we head to the polls. What are some of the specific aspects that do you think should be looked into to ensure that we have a smooth electoral process?
For us, we really want to have a very peaceful and transparent process during these coming general elections, because we do not want to bring this country into chaos, since we have had corona, who has really interfered with people's lives. We want to get back to our work immediately after the 9th. So for me, I'm also appealing to all the candidates that we should be able to conduct ourselves very maturely and sell our ideologies rather than creating violence, and especially in Kisumu County or in Nyanza area. So what we are trying to say, the goal has already been set. The candidates are there.
All right, sorry for that slight hitch we are facing there. Weekly for Cage, having a conversation with Kisumu County Senator Outa Frederick Otieno, just talking about the developments on the campaign trail on the road to the 2022 general election. And of course, what they were discussing there is the impact of the coalition zoning that has been, has been the strategy for the political outfits to be able to allocate the slots of these elective seats to those who are under the umbrella of their coalitions. And of course, I'll just like to begin from there and allow me to bring in my guest for the conversation this morning in studio. I'm hosting Gloria Oroba. She's a youth policy analyst. Thank you, Gloria, once again for creating time for us.
Thank you for having me.
Must be a very busy season for you right now.
The last time actually I was here, I was still vying
for
Bobasi constituency, and we were preparing for party primaries. So now
welcome back, let me say that.
Now I'm back. We went for primaries. I didn't get the ticket. I came in second, but I joined the presidential campaign team. So kazi iko tu bado. We are working hard.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about what you have been doing behind the scenes and what Kenyans can expect. But let's talk about, let me just pick up from where my colleague left. There was that issue of the zoning, that has created quite a debate among the political class, especially now that we have the arrangement of coalitions under the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance. There are about 20-something political parties under that political outfit. Under the Kenya Konza, we have the likes of ANC, the Ford Kenya, the United Democratic Alliance, and other parties also that are working very closely under the Kenya Konza Alliance. I mean, what is, first of all, your take on this strategy of zoning?
Zoning is a threat to democracy. It is a threat. And I think, that the Azimio political party formation wasn't really thought through. I think there was a hurry to make sure that they have more political parties on board so that they can have more numbers. It was a numbers thing, but they never really thought through, okay, how are we going to field candidates? How are we going to, because, I understand, and I'm not quite sure, that when political parties were trying to join, they would come and say, for us, we want to join, but these are our demands. And we have a candidate for this county, we have a candidate for that, and these ones you should not field. And now what ultimately did, it, you get numbers through the candidates that you're fronting. And if the candidates that you're fronting feel that they are not being accommodated, they are not going to campaign for you as a formation. And that whole thing for zoning, you saw how it created such a big issue in Nairobi. We had candidates holding press conferences talking about, for them, they have been in Jubilee and they don't understand why they are being told now that they can't, participate and, they can't have primaries, basically toka kwa sababu hiyo tumesha negotiate, we've given someone else. So I think it's a threat to democracy. For us in Kenya Kwanza, there was an intentional approach to make sure that every candidate that is actually campaigning for, the Hustler Nation, for our presidential candidate William Ruto, will be allowed. So what we did, it was, if you are under UDA, you go for your primaries under UDA. Whoever wins under UDA gets the ticket. If you're under ANC, the same. If you're under Ford Kenya, the same. We have PA, we have Chama, we have all those political parties. And the understanding was that may the best candidate win. And yes, at one point, particularly now if you look at Kiambu, there is some level of friction because you end up having like 3 or 4 candidates within the same umbrella. But I think, that's democracy. Because at the end of the day, these 3 or 4 candidates, also, if you look at it from now, our presidential candidate debate, they're still all campaigning for William Ruto. So it's the issue of you might split the votes and end up not clinching that gubernatorial seat. But the bigger picture is that you're actually all campaigning for William Ruto.
All right, let me just cut you short then. Politics is about strategy. You have been on the campaign trail, you know how this goes.
Yeah.
And what is it like going to be like? For example, if you have 4, like the Kiambu case, you have 4 candidates who are flying the ticket of different political parties under the Kenya Konza Alliance, and you have one candidate that is being backed by about 20-something political parties under the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance, courtesy of what they call the zoning strategy to win numbers. I mean, don't you think this is going to be a hard nut to crack for Kenya Kwanza?
First of all, that idea of having one candidate being backed by 20-something political parties is a fallacy. It's a fallacy because remember, there are candidates who've literally been told, you cannot vie. We have given this thing to this person. So you can be sure. Backing it's a semantics thing. It's like, yes, we have only as Azimio fielded one candidate, but qua grassroots, all the other disgruntled candidates who were pushed out forcefully and nothing was offered to them, or, you know, they feel they've been aggrieved, they are not campaigning for that candidate. So it appears in essence that Azimio has one candidate, and so automatically all these other candidates, their votes should go to that guy. But that's not the case. The case is that you have one candidate because as a political party, or I mean as a formation, as an alliance, you have decided to make sure that it's only one person. But qua grassroots, all the other people, when you are you can't vie, they have already taken, they are campaigning for whoever else. I'll give you an example that is very practical. In Nairobi, the moment Azimio had 2 women candidates for the women rep who are from Kisii County. Actually, they are both called Kwamboka. And then they had Pasaris. And then they had, I think, 2 others. There was one from Luonyanza, and I can't remember the other one. And the ticket was given to Pasaris. And automatically on the next day, so you see, the optics is that Pasaris is being backed by 20 political parties. But the real thing is that the 2 Kwambokas who were denied the ticket decided to tell the electorate and all their followers, sasa kama hata Azimio yezi angalia wa Kisii, hiyo kura yote tutapelekea Millicent Omanga. So in just one day, Millicent Omanga gained, you know, a lot more from the Azimio side. So in terms of qua ground, kabisa qua ground, that is not the reality that one candidate is backed by all the political parties. The reality is there are people who feel disgruntled, candidates who should have been left to vie or participate in primaries and actually, you know, either fail or get the ticket. And they are now silently but very actively campaigning for their opponents.
But don't you think that having that sit down to discuss and have sort of a gentleman's, and when I say gentleman's, I also apply to the other side as well. The
negotiated democracy.
Yes, agree that this is the candidate we are going to field as a political outfit, as a coalition, as an alliance. I mean, doesn't it increase the chances of you securing a win?
It does if you bring all the stakeholders to the table. An example is how the Kenya Kwanza Alliance formed the Nairobi team. Every single person that had declared that they are going to vie for senator of Nairobi or women rep or whatever was brought to the table. Every single person. And then they had a very extensive conversation where they looked at the formulas from a tribal perspective, from a background perspective, from the optics, whatever. And everyone on the table, when I tell you every single person, I'm telling you everyone who was vying under either ANC, Ford Kenya, UDA or whatever in Nairobi, in any of those seats in Nairobi, was at the table. By the time they concluded and they said, fine, our governor is Sakaja, our senator is Bishop Margaret, our women rep is Millicent Omanga, and then actually those were the county seats. So from there, you know, the other seats, they went for primaries and they actually competed. So I think then that's real negotiated democracy, because then you feel, you know, Rafton, for instance, was in a race he was running for Senate. He was in that conversation. We had the likes of Karen Nyamu. They were in that conversation. And they all agreed. They came out of there knowing we are supporting this lineup.
So it has to be a genuine...
It has to be genuine. But like in Azimio, you don't see that.
From your heart.
Yeah, that's why they had press conferences. They had candidates coming out in press conferences saying they were not aware that zoning is happening and they were not aware that they are being taken out of the race. So that was not negotiated democracy. That's literally someone saying, tumeka hivi tumeangalia, tutatoa timu Wanyonyi, tutaweka nani. You know, and that's where the issue is, because there was no genuine conversation.
So what's your counter strategy to ensure that not just the Deputy President William Ruto wins in August, but he has people to work with, because you can't just say that kwa ground, you know, it may go whichever direction. As long as the DP wins, it's actually going to the overall goal of ensuring that Kenya Kwanza wins. How do you ensure that even on the ground, Kenya Kwanza gets as many seats as possible, so that Deputy President William Ruto, in the event he wins in August, has people to work with?
So one thing I can assure you is that we are going to have the majority in the Senate, and we are going to have the majority in National Assembly.
So how are you going to?
And we have a strategy.
Yeah.
And we have. It's not just a strategy of waking up and saying tuweke nani na nani. It was even before the primaries, when we had started the negotiated democracy, we were looking at the strong candidates. We did real scientific polls, not these other ones just for swaying the masses. And also there was a capacity that was offered to candidates to ensure that we are pushing them to have a win. So there's an intentional approach on making sure that we have majority in the Senate and majority in the National Assembly, and even that we are able to have majority of governors. So, and of course, I can't share the strategy because
come on, I mean,
our opponents
have already shared their strategy.
No, they're taking notes. They don't have a strategy. They're just, it's an ad hoc procedure. But I can tell you for a fact that
sometimes they say when you don't share your strategy, there is no strategy.
No, you see, even now in the presidential campaign, we are throwing our efforts for the presidential candidate. But we are also, if you've seen with the Women Charter, we are also going down now to push for our women reps, to push for our women governors. There's an intentional approach on how we are winning these seats, because at the end of the day, you can imagine when William Ruto is the president and he has majority in the Senate, in the National Assembly, and in the Council of Governors, we control, like, you know, at least 60% of the governors, then it will be easy for us to push our bottom-up economic approach.
All right, so we'll talk more about that, but I want us to, bring on board Sefu Sani. She has joined us already. Thank you, Sefu, for creating time for us. Sefu is an MCA aspirant for Kenyatta Golf Course Ward. Once again, asante for creating time for us. We are talking about the state of the race. I don't know, what is the status of your race?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So just tell us a bit about, how far you've gone, what's happening, what's standing out for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you for having me. I'm very grateful to be on the show. And it's been an interesting journey for me, being that I'm a first-time aspirant. And I mean, there are many things that stand out for me. One, I think the reception on the ground has been great. Why? Because I think people want change, and they want transformative leadership. So that is what I've seen as I've been traversing my ward, which is Woodley Kenyatta Golf Course Ward. So a lot of people want to know, what is it that you can bring them that is different from what they've had over time? Because I think ever since devolution came, we've had 3 MCAs or 3 terms for them. And when you look at Woodley Kenyatta Golf Course, when you look at the state of, maybe the minor roads, which is the work of the MCA, most of them are in very bad conditions. So people are wondering, really, can we get leadership that is transformative for this area? So the reception has been very amazing, and I thank the people for that. They want to hear, what is it that you can give them? What can you do differently? Of course, there are a few challenges here and there on the campaign trail. Once in a while, there are people who, want to be given handouts, because that is the situation that the politics of the country has brought us into. But honestly and truly, I feel like this election 2022 there's going to be a big change in the leaders that we have. And if the people are really keen, I really don't think we are going to be having the 6-piece that most of the political parties are talking about. People are keen, especially on the people on the ground, on who their leaders are and who are the people who will give them transformative change. So they are not really, Kenyans have grown, and our democracy has really grown, whereby people are not really looking at, there's this outfit of the party, or, we belong to this or that outfit. No, but they're looking for people who can actually give them transformative change, who can be good leaders of the society who have integrity and people who can uphold what they do and what they say.
All right. You're flying the Labour Party ticket?
No, I'm flying the CPK Party, which is Communist Party of Kenya.
Congress Party of Kenya.
Communist Party of Kenya.
Yes.
All right. All right. I want us to talk about something else that is also shaping this journey. You've talked about people not voting parties but personalities, individuals, yeah? Yes. Looking at the individual and what they stand for. And let's talk about those people who are expected to be voting in August. A recent final report by IEBC showed that 22,120,458 voters have been registered. And of course, it shows a slight increase from what we saw in 2017, where only 19.6 million people were registered as voters. I mean, are you optimistic? This is for both of you. Looking at that increase in the number of people who have registered as voters, is there a message that this is sending? Let me start with you, Gloria.
I think, first of all, on the issue of the new registered voters, we need to question if indeed those voters exist. Because in certain regions, we have seen that they have gone over 1 million new registered voters, and yet when we had the registration drive, we were being told that, it's not really hitting the targets that they had wanted to achieve. So, and then there's the issue of the register. That they had wanted to just keep on digital until actually it was passed in court that they have to have an alternative register. Because before, IEBC was saying that they will only use the digital register, which means they would not, publish in every polling center the physical register of the registered voters of that polling center. Normally it's there like a day or 2 days before, and then you can verify that in fact, huyu alikufa, huyu si wa hapa, ama these ones have been imported or whatever. So that was actually a scare, because how else would you verify that indeed the 22 million the registered voters that we have now are actually legit? So I would say definitely there has to be a growth in the registered voters, because population is growing, dynamics are changing, electorate is actually being, they are more aware that they need to participate in this electoral process. But we also need to be careful so that we don't have ghost registered voters who shall be used or potentially can be used to rig the election.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm coming back to the manual voter register quagmire in just a bit. It has elicited a lot of mixed reactions in the country, but also just to get your sentiments on the same, that slight increase in the number of people who have registered as voters. As somebody who is vying, how do you interpret this? What does it tell you?
I think it's actually a positive thing if we have an increase in the number of voters from 19 million in 2017 to 22 million right now. I think that's something positive to look at, and it means that now people are becoming more aware of their rights and of the voice that they have through voting and through choosing their leaders. But one thing that also I'd like to point out is issues, anomalies that are coming out, from the voters list. One being a lot of people who've been transferred from the areas where they're voting into other places, and they're about 200,000 from the statistics that are given, and we don't know whether they will rise. So there are a few anomalies that have come up, and we hope that by the time we're having the election on the 9th of August, these anomalies will be rectified and they won't be a big issue. And of course, as Gloria has also mentioned, the issue that we have of the manual register vis-a-vis this other one that is digital. And I remember in one of the primaries there was an issue of a password, which became very trendy, and which was coming from a very
the ODM primary.
Yes, there was an issue, and it was a big deal, and people were wondering, okay, now everything is ready.
To take us back there.
Yes, but
the password
the only thing is no, the only thing is now, of course, when now we speak about digital vis-a-vis the manual, I think it would be prudent for us to have the digital and the manual at the polling station. That is what I'd say. But also another thing in the voters is the issue of the youth. who are the majority in Kenya, and there's a bit of apathy coming from there because a majority of the youth, a majority of the population, I think 35% of the country is young people. But when you look at the voter list, the youth are not really represented. So there's a bit of apathy there, which is something we need to look at.
I was actually going there before we get to the manual voter register. The youth factor in this whole registration process. And of course, according to the IEBC, although we may have had an increase in the number of people who have registered as voters, only 39.84% of the 22.1 million voters are young people. And this means that the number of Kenyan voters who are aged between 18 to 35 years who have registered to vote in August dropped by 5.27%. This is in comparison to the numbers we received in 2017. So, I mean, you are concerned about that.
Yes.
I want to know why, leaving out a big chunk of the youth who are, qualified to register as voters between 18 to 35. I believe somebody is qualified to register, but they didn't register. How does this, how does it concern you? What is it that you feel, what impact is this going to have?
Of course, the first thing that concerns me is that I'm in that demographic, and I'm vying for a political seat. So, and even when you look at Kenya, for example, if you look at Parliament, the representation of Parliament, the average age is 54 years old. But when you look at our country, Kenya, what is the average age? It's 18 to 35. Meaning what? We need to have more young people to be able to represent the issues that are coming out. For example, the issue of youth unemployment is a very big issue, in the country, with which is rising at about 40%, as we speak. So of course there's a lot of apathy, because if we have a government that cannot provide employment for its young people, then what is happening to these young people? They don't have faith in the leadership. And of course now this goes back to the socio-economic rights which are embedded in our constitution in Article 43, and employment is one of these socio-economic rights, with other rights coming up, the right to decent housing, water and sanitation, nutrition, which is also coming out very much with the COVID-19 pandemic that we have right now. For example, a lot of young people, water and sanitation is very important for this pandemic, having decent shelter, nutrition. And a lot of these young people are unable, to even face what is happening in their world, which is the pandemic, because now they have to worry about, how will they survive from day to day. So, of course, this brings about a lot of apathy.
What very fundamental issues you're raising, they're affecting and touching the youth. And it's good that it's coming from a young person who is vying to be a leader. But Gloria, you're a youth policy analyst, and I mean, these are issues that we all relate with living in this particular country. But the youth had a chance to change the narrative by registering as voters. Then they can be able to elect, the leaders that can be able to solve some of these issues. So
by the way,
what is holding them back?
That's a narrative, by the way. There's no voter apathy coming from the youth. There isn't. That is a narrative that is being created so that we can start accepting it, so that when it comes a point where we have intentions to rig elections, it will legitimize the rigging of elections. Do you have different numbers? That's what I'm telling you. You need to have different numbers. You need to interrogate even the percentages and things that we are being given by IEBC. You need to interrogate it. And I'm not a statistician, but I'm telling you, you need to sit down with those numbers, look at what they are trying to push and say that 5%, that we have a decline of 5% on registered youth. Look at the numbers that they are giving and the numbers that we had before, and then go and look at the census that we just carried out. And you will see that there's a problem. So there's a narrative that is being pushed that there is voter apathy from the youth. Yet we have nothing to show for it, When you're talking about, for instance, the political parties that carried out party primaries, the youth went out and voted. I mean, I got 5,587 votes in Kisii County as a woman. I can tell you there were women and youth who came out and voted for me. So there's no voter apathy. In fact, what is happening is that there's a very, let me say, evil spirit trying to confuse the youth so that they don't go out and participate in this election process. I'm telling you.
I think Gloria is in denial.
Allow me to do something.
Allow me to do something about what is happening in the country.
Something very quickly. We're coming back to pick up on this. Gloria seems to be feeling like this is not real.
She's in denial.
No, we're coming back to pick up from there. But I just want us to quickly also follow up on something this morning. All right. I'm told we can put that on hold a little bit just to continue.
So listen, now about the youth and this apathy that they are claiming. In party primaries, they participated, they are actively in the rallies, they are engaging in the election process, and so interrogate those numbers. Yesterday we had a launch for our Kenya Konza Youth Charter. And we had youth there, so many youth, and they were not being incentivized to come.
Unless you had the one thing to be there and be physically there, but it's another to have a voter's card.
Do you remember?
It's another to have a voter's card.
Serfine, there's a time
go on the election day and
these
vote.
People are registered. There's a time that I sat here and someone said that the youth, you cannot rely on the youth for their votes. You know, the youth, they are not necessarily interested in elections and whatever. And I stopped them and I told them, can you show me any data that showed you in this election and that election the youth never participated, the youth never voted? There's no data out there. There's actually no data, Serfine, that will show you in 2007 this is how people voted and the youth didn't vote. In 2013, the youth didn't. There's nothing. There's no data.
I think so. But I'm coming back to you still to tell me whether you have.
And the more we perpetrate the narrative, I will tell you what is happening is that we are selling fear and hopelessness to the youth.
Let me hold it a little bit and do this very quickly. We are going to be following up something for you right now. I want us to go to the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, for a Special Olympics Amani Torch run for this particular year, 2022. Currently speaking is the NCAC chairperson. Let's listen in.
And the Special Olympics athletes who are here, because it's because of you that we are here, and all the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. Good morning again. Since today is time for teaching some new things, as we were taught to dance here, let me also teach you the way in the NCIC we now greet people. When I say Amani, you say Milele. When I say Milele, you say Amani. Okay? Amani, Milele, Milele, Amani, Milele, Amani, Amani. Milele. Thank you very much. Very good students. Now, allow me first of all to introduce our NCIC commissioners who are here. Dr. Nanivas Makori, please stand at the wave, representing the commissioners. And then we have Dr. Skita Ocharo, the CEO of NCIC. And we have also some senior staff, colleagues from NCIC here. Now, let me say that it is really my distinct honor and a privilege to be here on behalf of NCIC, knowing that this is another election year which, since the advent of multi-party democracy in 1992, have been marked and marred with ethnic violence, increased crime, and sometimes the shutdown of our economy. This is something that has been referred to by the previous speakers. And it is because of this that we consider it imperative for elections, when they come, we must light up the flame of peace in the hearts and mind of every Kenyan to prevent any form of divisive and violent outbursts. From the time immemorial, the lighting of the torch has always had significance. Most memorably, the Olympic torch, which runs through every country, shows that we as humanity are one. Today, we borrow from that tradition to remind all Kenyans of all walks of life that we are one. And that is why, as you see, the motto of NCIC is one people, one nation, one destiny. This is really what we want to consider ourselves as. It is even more inspiring that our torch carriers are none other than our Special Olympics athletes who represent a segment of society that Kenya needs to listen most to. They represent the most vulnerable in our society, who are disproportionately affected by violence and disharmony. You can imagine what would happen when there is violence in a place and everyone has to run for their lives. And then you have those who, for no fault of their own, find themselves in a condition that they cannot run for their lives like the others. It is that disproportionality that really makes them very special people. We must remind Kenyans that though violence is always aimed at another party, the retaliation will always affect self as well. So when one, and as it was said here, the young in particular are the ones that are hired, the ones that normally politicians would want to recruit. And when they do it, sometimes they are the ones who end up being the most affected, sometimes even maimed, and at the worst of times killed. Nobody gets out of a boxing match unscathed, and there is no winner in war, but there are many, many losers. The loss of lives, the loss of property, the loss of peace of mind, and the scars violence leaves behind makes many people worse off in society. It is therefore prudent that we all gather together here to light the flame of peace across our country. I would like therefore of our Special Olympics athletes for taking their time, their talent and energy to support the peace agenda. Indeed, it is to my utmost delight that this particular campaign sets in perfectly with our Elections Bila Norma campaign. By using sports and athletes to carry the torch of peace, we are sending an unmistakable sign that we mean business when we declare elections bila norma. In our long-held belief as NCIC that we can't possibly make and keep this promise by ourselves, which is why partnerships such as this we have today, and when you look at all those who are here, and I must say that KEPSA is also here and very well represented.
All right, so that is the National Cohesion and Integration Commission Chairperson, Reverend Dr. Samuel Kobia, speaking at a function at Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, where there is the launch of the Special Olympics Amani Torch Run 2022, a peace run that is set to just create awareness among the public on the need to remain peaceful, to be tolerant, to observe tolerance during this electioneering period, and of course, just a quick comment from my guests before we take a very short break and come back on what we were discussing. There was that peace caravan that was launched last week, and there is this campaign that the country is currently running, the campaign Bila Norma. I mean, it's something that we should do and move on with our lives. Maybe just your message and how you see this whole initiative of preaching peace and instilling that message at this particular time. What is it that you tell the country in this season, Gloria?
I think it's a good initiative, actually, and I don't think they should only do it during elections. We should start normalizing the sensitization of the electorate as an ongoing process. I love the idea of a peace caravan going around and preaching peace and trying to, because it will not only push the peace message, but it will get those youth who you are thinking are not coming to vote, it will get them on board as well. And I think it will also create some level of, we must participate in this process as a Kenyan. So I love the idea. I think it's a really good initiative.
Same thing. It's a great initiative to have where we push for peace. And of course, in the same manner in which our politicians are campaigning, going around the country, then it's a good idea to also have a caravan going around the country to sensitize people and to remind them, of who we are as a country and that we are one, no matter the electoral process or who we are electing into the leadership. But I would also like to add that apart from the caravan, I think there are many other activities that can be done in the community and in the society to push for peace even during this time. Like, for example, the way we have the nyumba kumis around, the way we have something in the community, just something that brings the community together where they can do something and remember that they are one as a community and they'll continue to be one and they've been one, before and after this electoral process. And I think it's a good initiative to even happen right now during the elections because this is the time that, people let me say stop thinking for a while or maybe become polarized or
we are always okay.
We are always okay and then during this time. So I think it's a good thing to have it.
Yeah, sure. But it should be sustained like Gloria says. I mean, it should not just be concentrated around the election.
But I think for this time it has from previously I think a year, about even 2 years, there's been conversations about peace, there have been artists, there have been so many things happening. So I think this time there has been a real change from the way things have been happening.
All right.
Previously.
What I always say, don't raise your hand against your neighbor because elections come and go. But it is that jirani that you will go to when you're in trouble. It is that person next to you
what has also
that you will go to help you after elections.
Yeah. And
so
I think also this election is different because it's not only just about political rallies. If you look at what we've done, we've changed. When I say we, it's like Kenya Konza. We are, the town halls, the town halls that we are holding. The mode of campaign had always been rallies. Getting on top of cars and shouting at people and hoping that the people shout back at you. And the moment we moved from tribal politics into issue-based politics, you actually realize you can't start shouting the agenda from the top of a roof, of the car. Right. So we switched it to town halls. And the idea of having town halls and talking to people calmly and making them understand your manifesto, your agenda, has also brought down the temperatures of campaign. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I mean, also canvassing other things. It doesn't have to be just town halls.
All right. Well, let's take a very short break right now. We are coming back. Remember, there's that hot issue about whether the youth registered as voters in this upcoming election or not. We are still not in agreement on that. So we'll be picking up on that particular subject when we come back. This is News Check. Do stay with us.
Kupata lazima nishike. Kama sikiza tune yako, bonyeza *811 *962#.
Lazima nishike mapema. Nisiposhika hii simu mapema utakasirika. Unajua mimi nikiwa mtu ya marathon najua niko na experience kabisa. Niko na experience. If you don't hurry, you will not break the record. Okay, wacha nishike hii simu.
Kupata lazima nishike, bonyeza *811 *962#. *811 *962#.
As campaign intensified for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Kuria and Serfine Achieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions.
Top sports attractions on KBC Channel 1. In July, Kenya Morans face off against the DRC, Egypt and Senegal in the FIBA Basketball World Cup African qualifiers in Alexandria, Egypt from 1st to 3rd of July 2022. Also in July, Kenya plays South Africa in Rugby League test matches in Nairobi with the return fixtures set for October. Still in July, watch the World Athletic Championships from 15th to 24th July live from Oregon, USA as Kenyan athletes seek glory. Followed by the 22nd Commonwealth Games from 28th July to 8th August live from Birmingham, England. In August, join our coverage of the World Athletics Under-20 Championships from the 1st to 6th of August 2022 from Cali, Colombia. Then in November, catch the World Half Marathon Championships on 13th November from Yangzhou, China. Now that's what sets us apart as KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. In case you're just joining us, we are talking about the state of the race this morning. But remember, a little bit later on, we'll also be looking at a very major stakeholder in this whole process, that is the media. We'll be looking at the role of the media in Kenya. I'll be having a sit down with Polycarp Omolo Ochilo. Is a former lecturer at the School of Journalism at the University of Nairobi. But in studio for the better part of the first hour, we have been talking about the state of the race, and I've been engaging a panel of two ladies, Sefu Sani, an MCA aspirant for Woodley Kenyatta Golf Course Award right here in Nairobi, and Gloria Oruoba. She is a youth policy analyst. Thank you, ladies, for creating time for us once again. We were talking about the youth factor in this election, and it begins by them registering as voters. And IEBC just recently gave us, the final report on the voter register for 2022 general election. And looking at the numbers and how the youth participated in this, like I told you earlier, 39.84% of the 22.1 million voters are young people. And this is a drop from what was witnessed in 2017 by up to 5.27%. This is IEBC giving us these numbers, but Gloria says, no, this is not it. So I'd like to give you a chance, Gloria, to just...
I think here's my point. According to the census that we just carried out, you have 30% of the population of this country forming the ages of 18 to 34. 35. So 18 to 34 year olds, they form 30% of the general population. And IEBC has told us that 18 to 34 actually are now forming 39.8% of the registered voters. So do you think there's apathy? If there's 30% of the whole total population forming the ages of 18 to 35, which is the youth, that's 30% there. And then IBC is telling us, from now the registered voters, that is between 18 and, I don't know how many, which age, 39.8% of that actually form the registered voters. Where is the apathy?
Where is the apathy?
First of all, I just want to say...
That's a good question. I mean, really, we form more than 40%.
I'm getting there. Gloria, I think you're in denial, and I've told you this before, and I'll explain it. Serfine has just told us that according to the IEBC statistics, there's a 5.7% drop, which is 5.27, which is witnessed from 2017 to now. So even that 39 is telling you that there was a drop from 2017. So for you to say that there is no voter apathy, I think that is being in denial, because it is already telling you that.
Remember, they were targeting.
It is already telling you. No, you had your chance. You had your chance. You had your chance.
Okay.
Yes. So the fact that the youth in 2017 between the ages of 18 to 34 were more registered more as voters as compared to now in 2022. It's telling you something. Another thing that I want to mention, it should be 35% of the population that is youth. That is 18 to 34, but there's 70% of the population which is youth, if you're talking about youth from the age of 0 now to 35. And even when you're speaking about youth, then that age is also represented in policy. When you're talking about the CBC curriculum, yes, they don't vote. Yes, they don't vote.
Talking about registered voters.
Yes, we're talking about registered voters, but we're also talking about people who have stake, and that is something that you're not. So wait,
can I just say something?
The question is simple. Even as you say that
there is apathy, and let me mention why there is apathy.
Yes, first that was the question. Yeah.
First of all, look at the issue of unemployment of young people. It is over 40%. Why is that happening in such a government? That means that the government has failed its young people. That is another one issue. If you look at the rising cost of living, look at the cost of commodities today. Unga is going at 220 Kenya shillings, and there is someone who does not have employment. So what is this that motivates them to come and vote if they do not have employment? So yes, there is voter apathy from the young people, but we are saying that yes, the young people who have come out to register as voters, we are not denying that fact, but we are also saying we could have had more young people. So what is the issue here? When you're talking about voter apathy, it's not a fear narrative. We are giving it sensitization that we now want these young people to come out. We are letting them know that they're the majority. We are letting them know that they have a voice. We are letting them know that they don't have to die in, hopelessness, that this is a voice for them. So if this is an issue that is there, let us raise it up instead of burying our heads in the sand, because we are trying to push an agenda. Let us talk about the reality and tell the young people now to come out.
Allow me to say this. You see, IBC was targeting 6 million new registered voters, right? Of course, those were virgin voters, people who probably for whatever reason have never gone to vote, and they ended up with 2 million. From that 2 million, can they give us the demographics of who they were expecting other than the youth to go and register? You understand? So when I tell you there is no apathy, I've already explained to you. If our total population is 30 of 18 to 34 is 30%. You can't talk about the youth who are 5 years old. They are not. They cannot vote, and they were never going to go to IBC during the drive to register to vote. So let us just be realistic on the numbers. So if we are saying that now IBC is saying there's a decline from last time, there is a general decline. They were targeting 6 million new registered voters because of their poor sensitization and their absolutely horrible drive. They only from 6 million managed to register 2 million. So, of course, if you're going to use that as your benchmark of saying, now let us compare this 6 million who we should have registered with the past registered voters, according to you and your numbers, you will say there is apathy. Now, why I'm saying this is a fear narrative is, if you have 39.8% of youth, 18 to 35, registered to vote, and yet the total population, we have 30% of youth, according to the census. I keep asking, and that's why I'm saying interrogate. Where is the apathy? As a matter of fact, you have, that is about 40% of registered voters being the youth. In a drive and sensitization where IBC failed to even reach the halfway mark of their 6 million.
But they still managed to get
the 40% of the youth could be 60%.
I need you to understand why my message is, if you keep saying, and I've as a youth policy analyst, and I'll say this, if you keep beating down the youth, what you are psychologically doing is you're already telling them, by the way, you guys don't even participate in these things.
Allow me to just, we are not saying that youth are not voters.
I'll give you a chance.
Now
I'll give you a chance. This is it. So
the narrative.
If you had other numbers that we could compare with what IBC gave us, then we would stick and discuss the numbers, but we do not have.
We've used the census.
We do not have. So let's look at the issues here.
Yeah.
Why is it important for the youth vote to be part and parcel? Why is the youth issue such a hot button? Even this morning you can see it clearly. Why should the young person who is watching this program this particular morning have that change of mindset going forward? We agree that there are issues that they're going through. They've been failed by previous regimes, maybe the leaders they voted in, and they never fulfilled their obligation to them. But then why should they have a change of heart? Safe.
because the youth are the workforce of this country, they're the people who should have the means of production. They're the people who, if they work in this country, our GDP will go from where we are and will skyrocket. So the youth are the hope of this nation. The youth are the leaders of this nation. The youth are the energy of this nation. The youth are the hope of this nation, and that is why, and the youth are the voice of this nation. And it's not that they don't have a voice now, they still have a voice now, which is what I'm trying to say. And they can still come out, you know, and exercise that so that they can be able to be represented, so that their issues can be able to be looked at, so that the issue of unemployment, especially for young people in Kenya, will not be an issue anymore, so that we will have industries in this country. For example, Serfine, I don't know if you're aware that most of the toothpicks we have in this country come from China. Why should we have toothpicks in this country coming from China when we can have an industry in this country where young people can be employed to do that? So this is the reason why the youth should come out. And if there's an issue, we look at the issue and we settle it. We don't go around it. We don't distort information.
Right.
We don't stay in denial that this is a problem. We face the problem and then we look for solutions.
I'll come back to you to tell me what you have in your basket of goodies for the youth, now that you know where the problem is. Gloria, you've been part of the back room also crafting something that, you know, is sort of looked at as a dose to what is ailing the young people in this country. Talk to us a bit about that. The youth charter that you said you signed, was it yesterday?
Yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is it that it seeks to change? What is it that, what breath of fresh air should the young person of Kenya expect?
First of all, you know,
not experienced before?
with youth issues, you can't reinvent the wheel, you know. The issue with unemployment, you have to solve it by creating jobs. So you can come up with all sorts of fancy schemes and fancy things, but really the problems are the same. They have been the same. But I think what I would say is special about the youth, the Kenya Konza Alliance Youth Charter that we signed, that our presidential candidate William Ruto signed yesterday, is that it's an intentional approach, number one. By that I mean, we need to stop dealing with the youth agenda as a by the way. You know, it's like when we had BBI, we talk about all these things and then, oh, the youth. Then you throw in 2 sentences or 3 sentences. So the first thing that I would say is special is that it's an intentional approach, that we actually had our principal sit down and we said, you know what, we're about to launch the manifesto, but we are not quite sure that we will fit into that, you know, big agenda that you have for the country. So we would like for you to pay special attention to the things that we have here. And that was the first thing. The second thing I'll tell you is that we are looking at the same issues that have been there. If it's about the youth being unemployed, how do you go about it? How do you create an environment? Which we are talking about issues that relate to already legislature that we have. For instance, AGPO, the access to government procurement opportunities for the youth, people with disability and women. Why is it not working? How come the youth are not feeling that actually there is an initiative here that is an affirmative initiative for you, but they are not feeling it? So we went down to the detail of why it's not working and proposed certain, let me say, administrative things that needs the goodwill of the president for you to be able to push that agenda. So you look at issues such as representation, for instance, and I'm glad that she's here and she's vying and within the youth category, because what has been happening is that due to certain challenges, financial challenges, the issue of youth not being taken seriously, ukisimama kiti unaambiwa ngoja kwanza, you have time, nini, things like that. If you go through the charter, we are actually intentionally trying to change that and saying, as the Kenya Kwanza Alliance government, we need for us to have representation on appointive seats and on elective seats of 30%. On electives, on appointive seats, we are talking about boards, we are talking about parastatals, we are talking about the youth ministry actually having a youth outfit of people who relate to the issues. So it was actually a very cozy conversation with His Excellency the Deputy President, basically telling him the youth don't need much. You already have, people have sat down and drafted papers. You know, who are we to reinvent the wheel? What we need is the goodwill from you to actually ensure that these things are working for us. In terms of things like access to capital, which have been targeted to the youth. Look at the outfits that we have. Youth Fund, Uwezo Fund. They have a lot of bureaucracy. You know, you need security to access the capital. You need, I don't know how many signatures. You need, you know, there's a lot of things that actually, it's a youth fund, but it is not addressing the issues of the youth and how they can easily access that. So, and we were talking to him about like the Hustler Fund that he's proposing, the 50 billion Hustler Fund. We already know 50% of it is going to the women, because I was in the women charter and we pushed for that. So when we sat with the youth, we were like, yeah, 30% of the remaining should also go to the youth, because at the end of the day, if we're going to have 50 billion going towards capital, we also want the youth businesses to be able to benefit from that. And I think that's what the presidential candidates, including Wajakoya, should actually, let me say, emulate and say, have an intentional approach. Sit down with the actual youth, you know. Don't be in a boardroom 3 or 4 people and then come out and then give Alex Marete, go and read this speech. No, sit down with the youth and tell them that they have to, let's talk about this. And I appreciate that. And let me tell you, it was a wonderful event yesterday. Those who didn't catch it live, they can go on our social media pages, the United Democratic Alliance page. It was all aired there.
Sefu, you're vying for the Woodley Kenyatta Golf Course Award in Nairobi.
On a CPK ticket.
On a Communist Party of Kenya ticket.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about how you seek to address the youth agenda. Very briefly, because you're running out of time.
All right, and I thank you very much. I have a six-point manifesto for the people of Woodley, and I'll just say it. I'll just mention it, and then I'll come back to the first agenda. My first agenda on my manifesto is actually tackling youth unemployment and empowering the youth, and it is through three ways: through arts, through sports, through entertainment, and also formal employment. And my second issue is on gender equality and gender-based violence. My third is on social justice. My fourth is on pesa mashinani, or economic empowerment. My fifth is on kuinua biashara na wanabiashara wadogo wadogo. And my sixth one, of course, is legislation, or sera mpya. So now when we go back to the first issue on my manifesto, which is tackling youth unemployment and youth empowerment. And first of all, I've started an initiative with my team, which I thank them very much for the work that they're doing and for the voluntary process, in which, you know, we don't just promise the young people that we're going to do something for them. We start with tangible plans. How do we do this? As she's saying, you don't go to a boardroom, and she's saying we don't go to a boardroom, and they went to a boardroom.
No, we had an economic forum. Really.
Let me just,
no. So I will not allow that. We were not in a boardroom. We had an economic forum with the youth.
Okay,
please.
Gloria.
All right.
No,
we go to the young people from the different areas that we have in Woodley Kenyatta Golf Course. For example, in Upper Hill, in Kenyatta Estate, in NCC, in Lainisaba, in Odhaya. So the first thing we're doing is that we are forming groups for these people. So for example, we have, for example, the KNH Loyalty Group. We have the Upper Hill Youth Group. We have the NCC Youth Group. And from these youth groups, because they are organized, then we are able to get, you know, people from there when we have different opportunities. So my plan for the people of Woodley Kenyatta Golf Course is, first of all, for them to be organized, because it can't be random. We're saying we're going to give employment, then, you know, it will be, am I going to pick my friend, my neighbor, my who? So if they're organized and they're in groups, then, you know, that is the first thing. We have leadership in those groups, and we give them the money to register the groups. So that is now my initiative, what I'm doing. I won't go and give the youth money, but I'll say, okay, this is the money I'll give you to register this group, and from this group, this is what we are going to do. So for example, we are going to have art and entertainment. We have a tournament coming up for the football teams in the area, where we'll register for the football teams, and they'll be able to come from the different areas, you know, in the ward. And
thank you so much. Thank you so much. I want to give you ladies a chance to give me your final words. Gloria, is it? All right, Gloria gets the chance. Gloria, your final thoughts.
By the way, that's a very good manifesto. And I was just thinking about it when she was talking, and I was like, these groups that you register, we will prioritize them when we are dealing with the 50 billion hustler funds. We'll prioritize those groups. But my final word would be the youth of Kenya. I don't think they don't buy into this narrative. There's no apathy. You people are doing a good job. just keep coming out in numbers. This whole idea of people telling you, oh, the youth, hamjakuja kuregister, I don't believe in that. I think it's a fear narrative, and I want to actually tell them not to feel hopeless and just to keep doing what they're doing. And yes, there's a government coming in, the Kenya Konza Alliance government, and we have the youth at heart. I'm telling you, the 50 billion hustler fund, we have a lot of plans. Trust you me, we'll even share our charter that was signed, and it's a commitment, a promise to the youth of Kenya by William Ruto. And I want you to just, interrogate it and come ask us questions even online.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Gloria Oroba there, youth policy analyst. I was also having a sit down with Serfine. She's an MCA aspirant, Udle Kenyatta Golf Course Ward. Thank you, ladies, for creating time for us this morning.
Thank you.
And that is all the time we had for this conversation. I just want us to cross over to Kisumu County to my colleague Wycliffe Okech. He has also been following up on the state of the race. Let's listen into what he has for us.
Well, Serfine, earlier on we were speaking with the Senator of Kisumu County, that is Fred Outa, and like you heard him mention about his confidence in the IEBC. Right now, I am with one of the residents here in Kisumu, just maybe to again speak to us regarding the state of the nation insofar the electoral preparedness is concerned by the electoral body, as well as the politics of the day, the Azimio, the Kenya Kwanza, and again the other contestants for the presidency, and again the six-piece voting pattern that is being proposed by the ODM party, and again the zoning that is being fronted by the Azimio party. Brother Alfayo.
Yes.
Maybe you introduce yourself to Kenyans, your name, if you're a resident of Kisumu actually, and then talk to us about what do you think, in your opinion, do you think the IEBC is prepared enough to conduct free, fair, and transparent elections in the country? Maybe you can look at the camera. Yes.
So far, so good. Okay, thank you. So far, so good. My name is Alfayo Ngoro. As you said, concerning the preparedness of the IEBC towards the election of this Republic of Kenya, I would say they are somehow to 70% prepared, according to my view. And I believe when they fixed themselves and they tried to solve these small issues that our presidential candidates are trying to raise issues about, they are well to go.
Right.
Yes.
You're talking about 70% preparation. What's left with the 30%?
The 30%, that is now the stakeholders to push them together, to allow the room for discussion and allow some issues to be resolved where other candidates have got differences, where other candidates are not in a position to agree on such issues. That is why I believe the IEBC itself, they should call all the candidates on board and they get to agree on some issues affecting the IEBC, because it is them who raises the complaints. It is not the IEBC. So once you raise a complaint, the other party raises a complaint, the other party also raises a complaint. I think the best the IEBC should do as we speak, it should bring all these people on board and they get to agree over some areas of changes, and then we see how you can lead this country, they can chair this country towards this election that we are following. Yes.
The electoral body has allowed room for parallel tallying by the other stakeholders like the media and all that. What's your make on that?
There is no problem over that. I concur with them, because definitely when you want to do a private tally, I don't see an issue over that. I agree with them. Yes.
And we looking at the politics of the day. The Azimio is fronting the zoning concept, and again even the ODM party, which is a member of the Azimio coalition party, is actually proposing for the six-piece voting pattern. Is any viability? Is that even possible? Talk to us.
Are you talking generally only on the ODM or as the
Azimio?
No, that won't be possible because Raila Odinga is our presidential candidate with the Azimio brigade. And in Azimio, we have several parties. All these parties, we are looking for the issue-based politics so far as we speak. And it is upon those who are contesting for the various seats, those who are the favorites of the people, the favorites of the community. I think those should be given a chance to lead us, but not those who are imposed to come and lead us. Because generally, when you talk of the zoning itself, I remember even yesterday I was seeing there was a problem in Mathare North, where we had Bahati was being considered upon to step down in favor of Mathare, Anthony Oloch, the former MP aspirant. I think the best thing they should do, they should bring in one candidate, but they should not coerce any other person to step down in favor of the other. What they should do, they should call him on the table, they should discuss it on a round table, they should agree. These are the terms and conditions that we are placing for us to succeed this, because definitely if they don't sit on the table, I'm quite sure they are going to divide the votes and the other opponent will get the advantage over the Azimio. Yes.
Fine. Thank you so much, Alfayo. Serfine, that is one of the Alfayo Odongo, actually, one of the residents from Kisumu County, talking to us about the state of the nation, actually, so far the forthcoming elections are concerned. And right now, that is it from my end. And it has been a good conversation, actually, around the topic of the day. And we will look to do this again tomorrow, God willing. Back to you, Serfine.
All right, so thank you so much, Weekly for KJ there, coming to us live from Kisumu County, talking to residents there, getting their insights on the state of the race as the country just has 41 days to go before the next general election. And that was the first conversation we had right here in studio. But I want us to shift gears on the second part, and I'm having a sit down this morning with Polycarp Omolo Ochilo. He is a former lecturer at the School of Journalism at the University of Nairobi, to talk about the role of the media in Kenya and what the media can be able to do in elevating leadership and governance, and also on matters democracy, and a lot that you're going to shed light on the role of the fourth estate in our country. Thank you, Mwalimu, for creating time for us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we're talking about the media this morning, and this is what has been described as the fourth estate. I just want you to talk to us about the pivotal role that you feel this institution ought to play in a democratic society such as this.
Thank you very much. I think the media has a very critical role to play in a country, particularly during an election like today. And that is linked to what you have said, the fourth estate. The starting point why the media was called fourth estate is based on the British parliamentary tradition. At that time, there were three sections in Parliament. You had Lords Temporal, Lords Puritans, the Commons. Where the journalists sat was called the fourth estate, realm in the system, according to Halton, who wrote that book on fourth estate. So during the formation of libertarian theory of the press, it was argued that the press is key for democracy as a fourth estate, because it has a broad theoretical framework to deal with complex issues, to deal with the difficult issues, give them context. So that it does by knowing fully some of the key fundamental functions of the media beyond the provision of information, which is key unit of analysis. So I said, at election times like now, it is imperative that we ask, what is it that the media does as a watchdog role? Not as a cliche, but as a professional interpretation. What is it that the media should do in setting the national agenda? Not as a cliche, but serious professional discourse. What is it that the media does as a tool which is used as a device to maintain status quo in the context of development elections? For what is it that the media does as a tool capable of setting the agenda nationally and internationally? What does media do in terms of advocacy to deal with these issues? So it is key to that extent that we understand the role of the media. One of it is to set the agenda. So at an election time like now, professionals in media houses need to understand on a daily basis, how do they set the agenda in the context of governance, the context of democracy and elections? How do you institute fair play doctrine? Fair play meaning we have 4 presidential candidates who have been cleared by the Independent Electoral Commission. You need to give them equal airtime to follow the ethical provisions internationally. If you don't do that, then it means the media is creating an agenda which is biased, because the agenda setting means the media's capacity to influence what we think, to influence our perception. So if you have one party shown 4 times daily, 7 times a week, you are already giving perception that it is superior to the other parties that you don't give. These are the critical issues in relation to the function of the media. But doing that also requires that we understand their fundamental professional limitations. So important we understand that, but it is also important that the media gives policy reorientations in adopting techniques that is consistent with the demands of electoral systems as it is now. For example, at this time, the media must change writing styles from straight news reporting to interpretative reporting in the context of election, 2, explanatory reporting, 3, investigative reporting, 4, advocacy reporting, as a way of mitigating hostility, as a way of mitigating against misinformation, as a way of promoting public policy with the interest of the public people because of election demands.
Right. I want us to go step by step.
Yes.
And I must admit, I'm actually personally learning a lot as a stakeholder in this whole industry, in this critical season of election.
Very well.
Yes. But I just want to take you back on something you said there about fair play, the principle of fair play.
Yes.
And citing even an example of our country, Kenya, right now that we have 4 presidential candidates,
yes,
and why it is crucial to ensure that not just one candidate appears or gets covered more than the other 3. I just want you to address a concern that has been raised before with regards to what makes news at the end of the day. If you look at these 4 presidential candidates, an example one is having a political rally somewhere and another is probably in their office somewhere. If you're covering the day's news as a stakeholder in the media industry, who would you go for? What would you want to be part of the headline? Is it just about giving each and every candidate equal airtime, or there has to be value attached to that?
Well, you and me know that there are a number of yardsticks that we use for news judgment. Proximity, status, position that you have, human interest, and others. So when you are going to cover electoral system like in Kenya now, you start with policy reorientations in the media houses. That policy reorientation requires that you discuss with media houses as a whole, but you discuss with political parties that given that we are an institution that serves the interests of the public, and our policy reorientation of fair play, we are going to give equal coverage for every political candidate for all political parties, your public rallies, or calling you to our studios. You must make sure that these political parties understand that. So there, you are actually zeroing in on news judgment based on status, position of the politicians, who said what, the party candidate, etc., etc. Once you do that, they will comply because they want to reach their voters. Then it is known. You make that public. KBC would state that we are going to adopt a policy of fair play in the covering of election system in Kenya, as given the policy that we are serving the public. Therefore, we do not want a skewed arrangement where we are misunderstood. So you share that with these parties and they know. So even if they are not having political rally now, tomorrow when they have, you start with them. But if you keep on starting with party A, run 3 footages, cutaways, then you bring party B, 3 footages, cutaways, third party, you have left the other 2 or the other one. What perception you are giving to the public is that these are the preferred parties, and given that the media has serious power in influencing what you think in setting the agenda.
Do the players also have a role to play in securing airtime, in the media space, or it should just be granted?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
but the biggest problem that you and me must know is that Very many people do not understand the functions of the media.
Yeah.
They just think it is a conveyor belt for their ideas and for promoting their image.
Yes.
The work of the media is serious than that. So when they don't know, you let them know. You let them know. There would be, say, times when you will give an airtime free. There would be a segment where you would have to pay, advocacy and advertising. If they know those and they don't take them, you are not blamed, because ethically and following professional ethics, you have actually provided equal airtime for the parties that are standing in election, and you have let them know and make that public. Okay? Then some you do commentaries, television and radio. The style of writing you must adopt now is called commentaries. You have leverage to do write-up in commentaries, get the voice narrators, the best one, do it in the studio. You are dealing with elections, all those parties. So when you give it the equal time, that is the message they get. They will come for it after that.
So in this crucial time, one thing I get from you is that the media should go beyond the he said, she said style of reporting, but it should be deeper than that.
Yes, you see, the interesting thing is that those discussions were discussed after World War II. In the United States, for example, that is when people started to argue that we cannot just have straight news per se. While those people who just wanted straight news per se argued that that way you are not subjective, you are not injecting your opinions. But studies showed that time that viewers or listeners are interested in interpretation and backgrounding of stories done by professionally trained people. You give cause and effect of the story, and by so doing, you enrich the story, and people are able to understand more than straight writing. So that need to be adopted now, because election is complex, election is difficult, election is brought with conflict. People need to know more, and it is diverse. If you zero in an electoral commission alone, you have to look at high level of preparedness. You have to look at technological advances that they are using. You have to look at the human resource that they are using. You have to look at logistics that they are using. You have to analyze the efficacy and the ability of those things to work as per schedule and consistent with the constitutional provision, as it were. Those will require people will write investigative stories. But sometimes you adopt what is called collective sanction. What that means, that in a week, say on Friday, all media houses must agree, a lead story, big issue. Then Standard writes an editorial on that. Nation writes an editorial on that. People write an editorial on that. Star writes an editorial on that. When you do that, you are reinforcing the centrality and the seriousness of these issues, and you are passing that to the viewers to understand more, because there is a lead story on the page, but there is also editorial. And when they find that, that is what KBC also has done, a commentary on the same subject, which means media houses work in common to create synergy for the purpose, for the good of the society.
This interpretation, Mwalimu, should it come from, at some point, in certain instances, also come from an outside source? Because you're here trying to sustain the element of objectivity as a media house. Yes, you have this news, but going beyond to say what it means and what it may likely impact sometimes may get you to step on the wrong toes.
No.
Yeah.
Because in another definition, objectivity is actually, we use objectivity as a process of measuring the bounds of rationality. Rationality meaning you are fair, but it had its origins in the, say, Aristotelian tradition that they believe human beings are rational. So the media will promote rationality to the extent that you give them accurate information, adequate information, relevant information, and appropriate information. When you do that from your station or your people working in the institution, you cannot be accused of serious biases or that you are not objective, because you have backgrounded the story. You have provided empirical evidence to support your story. You have provided the interpretation required and the context. You may have interviewed somebody, or you interview so many people, and you have a piece which is investigative, interpretative, analytical and backgrounded, putting things into context and elections. Things like peace, just simple word like that. But it is so deep if you give it into context what peace would do in an election year. Issues to do with justice, so deep on what justice will do during election.
Yeah.
Issues to do with fairness is so big during an election. Issues to be satisfied that the media has dealt properly with the Independent Electoral Commission, that now people have faith in it, and they believe, because one role of the media is to demystify issues. It makes them simple. It makes them relevant and desirable for replication. When the media does that, you have a multiplier effect at national level, whereby now people really understand that this actually is what we should be doing.
All right, thank you for that, Mwalimu. Polycarp Omolo Ochilo, he's a former lecturer at the School of Journalism at the University of Nairobi. We are talking about the role of the media this particular morning, especially right now that we have just 41 days to the general election. What is it that the media can do to ensure that, they not only inform members of the Fourth Estate, but also go beyond that to open their minds a little bit? We are coming back to continue that conversation, but right now I want to take you to the Supreme Court this morning, where Murang'a Governor Mwangi wa Iria is currently there, just following up on a case on a petition he filed concerning his being barred from vying for the country's presidency. Let's follow up on that particular case, then we come back and pick up on our conversation.
In court, the judge said, now my lawyer clearly said that there is a process of a judge excusing himself out of a matter, and the process is properly defined in law. You cannot just walk to court and say, Mr. Judge, I'm requesting you, because the lawyer of IBC said we are not official, but we kindly, if you can leave this matter. It was very embarrassing. I got embarrassed myself, and I think everybody in court got embarrassed, because my lawyer asked, if you want to do that, you need to do a submission giving reasons as to why you think the judge should not listen to. But then he said, it's not very official, we are only requesting you. The judge said the law does not allow that. However, I've abandoned the matter, and I've given the election that the matter be listened to by another judge. So I was told to go to the presiding, is it presiding? To the principal magistrate, principal judge, to go and get further direction on how my matter will be handled. Now my matter was scattered. I was not told which court to go to. I was told it will be determined on who else now will handle my matter. No dates, no nothing, so my case rested there. When I went to the High Court, I was told the holder of the office, which is supposed to deal with that, is actually on leave. When I asked them, what do I do? They say they don't know. So, in short, my case was terminated yesterday unheard, because it was not heard by the tribunal, it was not heard by Justice Ogundi, it was not heard by Justice Murima, and it was not handed over to anybody else. So, because I'm a law-abiding citizen, I decided to present my case to the Chief Justice, administratively, not as a matter, because it's allowed. The Chief Justice is actually in charge of all administrative processes within the judiciary. So today I came to present my matter to the Honorable Chief Justice, and I was attended to by her legal officer. The Chief Justice wanted to meet me, but she was conducting interviews. A very honorable lady. And I was told clearly she had said if she would have been available, she would have listened to my case directly, my matter directly. This is administrative, this is not legal now at that point. But then the legal officer attended to me together with his team. I explained everything, and they told me that I am at the right place. They are the ones who are supposed to handle such a grievance, because it is administrative and it is deep. Already I've lost 1 month being taken to and fro Raila Odinga, William Ruto, Wajakoyo, and Mwaula have been campaigning for the last 1 month. This is a scheme to make sure that even if I'm cleared, I have no time to campaign. And you can lead the scheme very clearly. And this is coming from far, guys. I'm a politician. I know how to read mood and things. When you find judges abandoning a case, my only fear is who is threatening them? Who is intimidating them? That must be a very powerful heart, my friends. Because Mama Mboga cannot intimidate a judge. They are feeling highly threatened, I can tell you. And you can see no one wants to face my matter. Because my matter is straightforward. I'm supposed to contest. I've been a governor for 10 years. The qualifications for a governor and those for a president are more or less the same. And I've served for 10 years. Voted in twice by over 80% of the people of Murang'a. So they know that I automatically qualifies. About signatures, they can't bring a story because I took them, they received them, and they don't know how to face that in court. Because I have documents from them clearly indicating that they received for the 24 required, and there was 2 stages of receiving, checking and then handover takeover. They were all signed against. And that's why Wabukati, so I call him, cannot face me in court. Now, he went into hiding and he has told judges to hide. So my question is, where is this country headed? This election, I can tell you, is already rigged. Their fear is if I get there, someone, and I've been told, they think that I am likely to spoil votes for so and so. That's their talk. You know, the talks come to me. So we cannot allow this game to continue. If you look at how IBC has been conducting this general election, it's already a fraud, and I say it so. First of all, they cleared candidates without a voters register. And all candidates are supposed to be valid, verified voters. But they cleared all of them without a voters register, meaning that the election is already seated on SAD. In reasons, actually, and they know that no candidate qualifies as we speak, because we are all cleared using an invalid voter register, and they want us to keep quiet. Yes. This will nullify the general election, the presidential election, my friends. Those signatures which they were verifying, they were actually telling us as presidential candidates to go and seek for signatures from registered voters. And there was no register of voters. These people are sick.
All right, so that is the Usawa party leader, Mwangi Wairia, currently speaking to members of the Fourth Estate at the Supreme Court of Kenya, right here in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. Just a follow-up on the petition he filed concerning his being barred from vying for the country's top seat by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, raising concerns about what he terms as the back and forth on how his case has been handled and who should be handling his case. And of course, that climaxed to yesterday when it ended in what he terms as his case being stagnated after it was unheard by the court and also not referred to another judge. So he was left at a state of not knowing what next. So this particular morning, he presented himself to the Chief Justice, Martha Koome, at the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, he could not be able to meet the Chief Justice. But of course, just to express his grievances and what he says right now, that this matter is not a legal matter, but more of an administrative matter. We are yet to know how this is going to pan out. But of course, in studio, have been having a conversation this morning by Polycarp Ochilo. He's a former lecturer at the School of Journalism at the University of Nairobi. And before we continue with what we were discussing earlier, you've heard the governor there speak about some of the issues he has gone through, and also just a quick comment about what you've heard and how this is being also covered.
I think he's right from point of law because he's doing what is called due process. Due process meaning he's following the regulations and the laws of the country to ensure that final judgment is done on the basis of that. Because that's why people go to court. You go to court to seek justice. So I think he has done the right thing. A problematic thing there is the comment that election is already rigged. This is dangerous comments because as a country, we are interested in a free, fair, credible, and verifiable elections. That is what IEBC wants to do. That is what the laws of Kenya provides. Therefore, to insinuate anything which you cannot justify, to provide evidence, it is dangerous because you begin to build discontent on the side. But otherwise, I think he's putting his case for due process so that justice is not only seen to be done, but it is done. And the courts have competencies to do that.
All right. So I just want us to go back to what we were discussing earlier. And I wanted us to look at the relationship between the role the media plays and what we call democracy, leadership, and governance. There is an interconnect. There's something that connects these three spheres. Talk to us a bit about how the media comes in and how they can be effective in serving this.
Yes. These issues are key. Election is about democracy, but elections are also about governance, or what people call good governance. And the fourth estate has an overarching role to deal with these key issues of democracy, of governance, so that people have context in terms of relevant information to make those decisions. From the point of view of Kenya, the media is already empowered by the Constitution to be free and independent editorially, to do what they think is professionally correct without any interference from any other quarter. If you read Article 33 of the Constitution, as read together with Article 34 of the Constitution, where the Constitution is categorical that apart from promotion of propaganda, violence, hate speech, and ethnic differences, the media is free to cover what they want without any interference. Then Article 35 discusses the centrality of information as a unit of analysis, because the media gives information in a generic form, but they are general information, they are specific information, personal information, political information, cultural information, economic information, and technological information, as it were. So all these things become relevant for the media with that empowerment in hand from the law and the Constitution, now to deal with governance. Governance has been defined by Gore and Hayden as regimes' management of their structures to enhance their legitimacy in the public realm. Implied in that definition is that a good governance presupposes that there is very harmonious relationship between the rulers and the ruled. There is synergy because the rulers work for the common good of the ruled. And you can only do that if you are transparent, accountable, and open to allow people's participation. Democracy has been defined by the American president as the rule of the people, by the people, for the people before. But the contemporary definition is provided by Joseph Schumpeter. He argues that democracy provides us and governments with authority. The democratic process provides government with its purpose, why government is there. Democracy provides the due processes in which there is contestation for people to get power. What is happening now? Contestation and participation. So Schumpeter, like other scholars, have emphasized that the most important part of democracy is the empirical processes which provides room for contestation of politics through participation and a fair and level playing structure to acquire power. So you see there is interconnectedness on the interface between the media, governance, and democracy, and the media playing overarching role to decipher most of these challenges in them. So when it comes to governance, A governance system which is undemocratic can only be taken to task with the media to analyze the extent to which it is undemocratic. For example, does it allow people fair play to participate? Does it respect the Bill of Rights of people? Does it respect the constitutional rights of people to be practiced? Does the process that government put in place during election provide fair play to ensure that people register for election, to ensure that politicians campaign, opposition and otherwise, in an atmosphere free of intimidation whatsoever, so that citizens have the capacity to make rational decisions, as Aristotle believed, that human beings are rational. You are only rational to the extent that you use adequate, accurate, appropriate and relevant information to make rational decisions. The reverse is that the case. If you don't have adequate, relevant, appropriate information, you make decision on the dark, it will be irrational.
All right. So how do you go about this, playing that role in a shrinked democratic space as the media, where freedom of the media, I believe, also ought to be shrinked at the same time? How do you hold the government accountable in such a scenario?
Yes, you see, the tool that we have is the Constitution. For a long time in this country, there was no unequivocal constitutional provision on the freedom of the media. This time, under Constitution of Kenya 2010, Article 33, Article 34 fundamentally, and Article 35 on the access of information, there is an equivocal provision that the media shall be free to determine their editorial content and what they have to cover at any particular time. That is the tool you use, notwithstanding that there are implied controls which are also done, because you see, one of the roles of the media is that they are used as a device to maintain status quo, which means the media is a component of the ruling power politique. Okay? So the ruling power politique has their interest, and the media has their interest. For example, the media produced in Nairobi, Nation, Daily Nation, Standard, they have interest in hitting the road in Kisumu every morning. They can only do that under peace and tranquility and security. The person in charge is President Uhuru, so they cannot take him off forever. There is overlap of interest which they must contain to do those things.
All right.
Yes.
I know we can have this conversation the whole day, but quite eye-opening, I must confess.
Thank you.
Just looking at the role of the media and how it can play that role professionally in this election-yearing period. Of course, I've been having a sit-down with Polycarp Omolo Ochilo. He is a former lecturer at the School of Journalism at the University of Nairobi. Definitely a conversation that must continue. All right, so right now, that's how we wrap it up on News Check today. Thank you for creating time for us. In just a bit, I'll be handing it over to Timothy Kipnusu for Tamrini and Kurunzi Mashinani coming your way shortly. But now I want to take you to the coastal region. Let's listen into an event that is currently underway. Speaking is the Cabinet Secretary Simon Chelugui. Let's listen into what he's saying.
Production and plays a central role in economic growth of any economy, and in an economy like ours, having decent job is what most youth seek for, because it offers them an exit from poverty and ticket to better life. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of Labor mission is promotion of decent work, skills, development, and sustainable job creation. To achieve this mission, the ministry is expected to develop and implement employment policies, programs, and strategies, a role which the ministry has partly delegated to its agencies like National Employment Authority and National Industrial Training Authority. In the implementation of this mandate, NEA is expected to provide comprehensive institutional framework for employment management, enhance employment promotion interventions, and also enhance access of employment by our youth, minorities, and marginalized groups. I note that since NEA board was fully constituted last year, they have played this role rather